What's up, YouTube? It's your boy G Money, and I'm my brother's keeper. Yes, I am. And this is another episode of Sidewalk Talk. No, I'm usually throwing out a bunch of advice for the younger generation, the teenagers and the, up in the 20s. And I started thinking I gotta start giving some advice for the older, you know, up in the 40s and 50s, maybe even the 60s. Um, at some point, back in the day, we were all well, I'm not gonna say we were all athletic because I can't speak for everybody and say everybody was athletic. But in your younger days, you moved around better, and you was able to do more things pain freely. And people have their glory days. Back in the telling stories about what they was able to do back in the day. You might have real quick hands, might have real good reflexes, might have been quick on your feet. You might have had a one hitter quitter. You knocked somebody out with one punch. Might have been a great wrestler. Might have been a track star. Anything. Back in the day, it was possible that you had a talent that you no longer have anymore because of age or injury or anything like that. So my point is reasons why you might reasons why you need to carry now. Reasons why it's time to carry if you're not carrying. Because, the world has changed and you might not have the ability to do the things that you had the ability to do 20, 30 years ago. You might not be that knockout artist anymore that was able to get somebody off you with one punch. You might not be that grappler anymore that was a good wrestler, or you might not be that sprinter that you used to be able to get away from somebody if they was trying to do something to you and you wanted to run away from a scene. You might not have that ability to get away anymore. You know, you just don't have it no more. You older. You might be taking medications and you might be disabled and you can't afford to be caught up in a life or death situation with some young person that's taking MMA classes. Like, listen, it's the world has changed, man. The you can't judge a book by its cover anymore. Back in the day, you might see a nerdy looking person and be like, "There's no way in the world that that he gonna beat me." He was a nerdy person. They didn't have any kind of fighting skills or not or at all. And you run into a nerdy looking person today, and he might be studying every MMA move in the book. He might be a nerdy looking person, but he, if y'all grapple and y'all end up on the ground, he might know every move on the ground to make you tap out. And in a street fight, there's no referee. There's nobody that's going to stop the fight because you're tapping on the ground. You're just gonna be tapping on the ground. And he's just gonna be breaking whatever he want to break or choking you out until you pass out or you die. It's that's a scary situation to even think about, to be in a street fight where there's no rules and there's nobody to stop it or break it up unless there's witnesses that are going to do more than just record with their phones. You might get a crowd that don't intervene. All they just want to do is record and download it to the internet. That's what you get a lot of times right now with the people that stand around and see stuff going on. They'll sit back there and record your whole death, um, instead of breaking it up. and it can happen, man. People done got into it. Simple shit like this. You know, you in a grocery store parking lot, and you're waiting for somebody to pull out of that parking spot, and you've been sitting there, and they're taking their time in the car. This to happen to everybody. They're taking their time in the car, pulling off, and they know you're waiting, but they do it anyway. And then they finally start pulling out, and you're ready to pull in that spot. But when they're pulling out, the angle that they're pulling out, a car is coming from the other side that just came around the corner and sees that car pulling out, and that car just shoots into that spot that you've been sitting there for about almost 2 minutes waiting for them to get their stuff together, to pull out, and another car just swoops into that spot, and you've been sitting there that whole time waiting. Now you pissed off because you had to wait all that time for them, and then that other car either seen you or didn't care or didn't see you and just hurried up and got in that spot. Now you're ready to say something to that person because you sat up there and waited for that spot. You felt like that spot should have been yours. So now you're like, hey, didn't you just see me wait? I was sitting right here waiting for that spot, and they like, hey, I don't care, man. I got now y'all going back and forth. Now you decided to get out your car or something because you had this rep back in the day when you was in your teens or your 20s that you didn't take no shit from nobody, and your hands was serious. But now you in your 50s and you got back problems and shit, but you still feel like you're not gonna take no shit from nobody. And so you get out the car and approach this person, and y'all guys going back and forth in the parking lot. Y'all in a grocery store parking lot going back and forth over a parking spot. Next thing you know, y'all get into a tussle, and you're not as quick as you thought you were, and you're not you're not moving the same way you thought you was going to be able to move in this fight. And this dude is a lot quicker than you and stronger, and he end up taking you to the ground. And now he ends up, he knows some damn shit on it. He knows some wrestling shit. He knows some MMA shit. Now, what you gonna do now? You in between cars, and people don't see y'all on the ground, and he got you in a damn chokehold or a leg lock or an arm bar or whatever else type of shit that they do, and can break your shit up in pieces in a parking lot, and you just screaming in between cars. You know, that's a situation right there where you got to hang it up, man. You can't be out in these streets trying to go hand to hand combat anymore with people. You need something to be able to defend yourself with, man. If it gets to that point where it's an altercation, and you don't have it in you to be able to fight no more. And in that case, I wouldn't have said approach him with a gun. But I'm just saying if somebody approaches you and wants to get into a physical altercation with you, and you're not able to fight anymore like that, you need to have something to get them off of you, you know, because you can't do it anymore. At some point, everybody has to hang it up. Um, and a fight can turn deadly. So you can't say that you can't pull a gun out uh, to stop somebody from beating on you or killing you, because somebody can kill you in a fight, especially if they know what they're doing, if they're trained and they know what they're doing. So you can use a weapon if somebody is doing harm on you to the point where you think that they're going to kill you, which is some laws and stuff that I don't agree with, because I feel like some laws are kind of wishy-washy and bullshit, because people are using certain laws to get away with killing people. For example, that stand your ground law in Florida. I like the stand your ground law, but they need to fix it, because that thing that happened with uh damn, I forgot the man's name, but Y'all know who I'm talking about. He followed the boy through the apartment complex that had the Skittles or whatever. And they told him not to follow him. And he kept following him anyway. And he ended up catching up with the boy. Trayvon Martin, I believe, was the boy's name. I forgot who the guy's name was that killed him. But he caught up with Trayvon, and they ended up getting into a fight. Now he pursued Trayvon. He followed him, even though the police on the phone told him not to continue following him. So right there should have eliminated stand your ground, because how can you say stand your ground when you're stalking somebody, when you're following somebody? And then I guess the fight broke out. The fight didn't go in his favor, and he starts losing the fight, and he's getting his head banged on the ground. And now all of a sudden he's pulling out his pistol and he kills the kid. And now they're going to say that that was self defense. How was that self defense when you followed somebody and basically started that whole situation? Because had you not followed him, chased him down, and had the altercation with him, that boy would have made it home, and you could have made it to where you needed to be. So that law confuses me on the stand your ground. They people using it to be able to get away with little dirty shit. You know what I'm saying? But I believe older people do need to start carrying. It's dangerous out here. These younger people do not respect the elders like we did back in the day. It was almost a code amongst everybody that you respect your elders, man. You do not disrespect older people when we was coming up. You know what I'm saying? And we was, you disrespected an older person, and your parents or somebody found out about it, you would get your ass beat. Just because you was supposed to respect your elders. And nowadays, these kids are not taught that because they're getting raised by kids. It's kids getting raised by kids. Nobody's respecting nothing, and these kids is attacking elderly people, and robbing elderly people. They had something called the knockout game some years ago, where teenagers was walking around randomly and just punching elderly people in the face just out of nowhere. They see an elderly person walking down the street, and they would just come out of nowhere and just punch them in their face and knock them out cold on the curb on the sidewalk. And they was recording this shit and laughing and joking, like thinking this shit was hilarious or something. And it was like the most craziest shit to see, because it's like, do y'all know y'all just, yeah, first of all, you could kill them because they elderly. They hit their head. You already done punched them. Then when they fall, they hitting their head on the concrete, and y'all laughing and joking about this. You know that's somebody's grandparent. You know that's somebody's father. That's somebody's like, do you know that if the family members find out who you are behind that, they're willing to take penitentiary chances on doing something to you behind what you just did? Because I'm telling you right now, if somebody put their hands on my grandparent and I find out about it, listen, you know, y'all know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody really got to talk about it. You know what it is. But it's like, yo, that's that's just crazy to even think about, people putting their hands on grandparents and elderly people, man. Like, and that's the reason why I feel like older people need to be strapped, man. They need to be carrying something, because these younger generation people, they don't play by the same rules that we did when we was younger. They don't at all. Anybody can get it as far as they concerned, and it's crazy. But yeah, so stop thinking that it's the same old days that it used to be. Those days is over with. Your old glory days of being that fighter. You got back problems, you taking pain medications and all of that. You never know. You one of them people that you got a bad something wrong with your body, and you can predict when it's about to rain because your body start feeling funny because the weather changing. You're like, oh man, it must be about to rain. My hip is killing me, or My shoulder is killing me. You know, I can always tell when it's getting ready to rain because of this. If you got them kind of problems, you don't need to be out here. You don't need to be out here getting in no grapples or nothing on the well with these young people, man. Um, get you something to protect yourself, to get them off you, to get them away from you, because they not playing fair out here, man. And you elderly, you know what I'm saying. So you have every right to protect yourself because they these young people don't care. They don't have no heart, man, no compassion at all. They don't care about your age or your condition. Um, So that's all I wanted to say, man. Protect yourself, man, no matter what your age is, but older people especially now, man, you gotta be more careful. I always tell the older people in my family, y'all gotta be more careful and y'all have to stop thinking that it's the older days that y'all used to, going around and nothing's gonna happen to you. These aren't those days anymore. Stop feeling so comfortable, feeling like since you're an older person that you're respected by everybody. These aren't the same days. These aren't the same kids. These kids is running around talking about they on demon time. They calling themselves demons. You know what I'm saying? They call it, so you gotta be careful out here, and you have to protect yourself. And you gotta get a firearm because damn near everybody, whether it's legal or not, they out here with them. Most of the people that's carrying firearms illegally have better firearms than the people that have them legally. To be honest with you, so you need something to be able to at least give yourself a chance. So I'm not gonna keep this going too much longer, man. But this is for the older generation, man. Stop thinking that it's the old days, man, where you safe because of your age, where the neighborhood protected you. The neighborhood. You might get one or two people that live by them rules still that see that and come around and help, but majority of these people right now is pulling out their cell phones and recording. It's sick. People sit back and record and watch somebody die on their phone before they try to help. And it wasn't like that back in the day. So, this your boy G Money. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. And this is another episode of Sidewalk Talk. Everybody be safe, man. Keep your head on the swivel. Keep God in your life, man. And stay focused, man. I'm out.